Hey guys, it's Jennifer. Decided to do a live. Some of you guys know I'm actually sitting on my floor right now because I was going to come down and do a little bit of stretching and just kind of help move some of the emotions around today. And I'm just curious to see how everybody's doing and how you're kind of going through this. There's been so many things that have been happening lately that are emotional and traumatic and all of those kind of things. And I just want to know how you're doing. So if you guys would just say hi. I don't usually make notes, but I actually did make notes today just because there's so much going on. So I've talked to a few different people, and obviously for those of you that don't know or whatever, I actually was in Vegas. We were there for a women's conference. The conference was amazing. But we were still there. Do you know what I mean? And for just a brief split second, I thought about going to the concert, and I'm glad that I didn't. Luckily I was too tired from being at the conference. Hey Jen, thanks for saying hi. And I just wanted to come in today and just say hey to everybody because there's been so much emotional energy. And you guys know I've done videos before on the energy, and everything around us is energy. And so when there's all these mass amounts of people who are energetically putting out this vibration of fear and sadness and overwhelm and all of these things that are happening, it can affect us, even if you weren't there, even if you weren't in fact, like actually in Vegas or whatever, if you weren't affected, like maybe you had somebody that was there, so you're directly affected. But even the people that weren't in Vegas, that weren't somehow directly affected, they're feeling the effects of it because it's on the media, it's on the news. You can't even turn on the news, right, without seeing it. And then on top of that, there's all the day-to-day things, plus all of the stuff that just happened, right? We've had hurricanes and storms and flooding and all of this stuff and a lot of things. Hi, Van, I miss you too, honey. I miss you. I'm so glad we didn't go out after. But anyway, so there's just so much right now, so much going on. And I think the biggest thing, I just had a call with another gal, a friend of mine, and I think we have to give ourselves permission, first of all, to have the emotion, right? Because there's a lot of not being sure how to feel, not being sure why we're scared, or knowing why we're scared, or knowing that we're angry, right? And I did a blog post about Vegas and about how to really focus in on what does it mean to you? Why is it affecting you? What are the feelings? I put a word to those feelings, because sometimes when you're not sure about how you're feeling, and you guys, if you have questions when we're on here, just please ask questions. I'm seeing the feed, which is good, because there's been some times in the past when my phone wouldn't show that. But if you have questions about it, just really kind of get in with, how are you feeling? What does that feeling mean? Why are you feeling that way? And then the biggest thing I can say is allow yourself to have the feelings, right? Because we're like, well, I wasn't there, I shouldn't be affected by it. But if you're feeling the effects of it, if you're feeling everybody else's emotions, then it will affect you, whether you were there or not, right? And then there's personal stuff going on. So not only all of the things in the past, like my girlfriend luckily was in Florida and she's okay, right? So they didn't even know if they were going to have a house. Thank God everything worked out okay. They're fine. That was not really me affected, but it was one of my really, really good friends. You know what I mean? So emotionally there was a connection there because I wanted her to be okay. Actually, I see Nate, I'm talking about your mama. I just was praying for him so hard because I wanted everything to be okay. And then the whole Vegas thing, right? Like, we have this guilt over not being there. I've heard this more than once. And on the news, it was showing the people that were in the hospital who were shot, but they lived and they feel guilty, right? So you'll feel guilt or fear or sadness or overwhelm. And I think the biggest thing to do is pinpoint and figure out what it is that you're feeling. Know that emotions are okay. Like, don't feel like you can't have emotions, because emotions are super important. But the thing that we need to know is that emotions are actually markers. They're not really something that we're supposed to really like dive into and be, that's our vibrational energy where we stay. They're just a marker saying, look, you're kind of not feeling great right now. You're not really on track. We need to kind of get you back on track, and this is how you're feeling, so you need to look at that so that you can process it. And yeah, Jen, that's a great thing to shed yourself. Like, you have to not listen to media right now. If you can watch the media and you don't have an emotional reaction to it, then it's probably okay for you to say, okay, what's going on? I just want to see. But if you turn on the news and you're like, oh my God, I can't deal with this anymore and it's too much, then don't watch it. right? I went through a period of that myself here in the last couple years where I didn't even watch anything on the media, because every time I watch the news, it's always something horrific, right? It's always something bad. And I was just watching Lee Harris too, and he had a really great way of how he explained it. He said, you know, you can either say, oh my God, the house is on fire, or you can say, okay, well, the house is on fire. It's obviously burning down. What are we going to do to rebuild it, right? And there's two ways that you can look at that. So that's kind of what you have to do. But the main thing that I want everybody to understand is these feelings are real. The emotions are real. Figure out what they mean to you and why you're having them. And then that way you can process through them. The biggest thing is if you feel sad, like, feel sad, but just don't stay there forever. Like, you know, some of us just want to curl up in a blanket and not have to ever go on. Well, that's obviously not the answer. So be aware of your feelings too, and know when you need to find some help, right? When you need to seek help for that. Is it something that you can shake off? Like, that's another thing I wanted to kind of bring up. I was talking to somebody else yesterday, and I said, well, the thing is, animals have that instinct. They're already built in, and their fight or flight is different than ours, because and I think this I learned years and years ago from, his name's Stephen Horner. He's with Nature's Sunshine, which is the vitamins I use. And he had, I think it was a flower essence class, but anyway, he explained it so well, because what he said is when an animal, so imagine a rabbit, right, getting chased by a coyote, it's going to run and run and run, and the adrenaline kicks in and they're running faster and you get that extra surge of energy. But when they're done and the coyote doesn't catch them, they literally shake, and they shake and shake and shake until it really settles down the adrenaline. And so it balances their hormones back out. As humans, we don't have that. So then we get stuck with its high adrenaline and high stress, and we can't shake it off, right? So that's kind of what's happening. So when you can learn to process your emotions and know what your emotions are and figure out how you're feeling, then you can work through it a lot easier. Okay. On top of that, if you're empathic, those are my friends that, you know, are on the woo-woo side of things, the energy is freaking crazy right now. Like, you can almost cut it with a knife. It's so real. It's so palpable. It's so strong. You can feel it. So, and even I'm emotional this week. I don't know if you guys know this either, but my dog finally gave out and went to heaven. And he was old, and we knew it was kind of coming. I just didn't expect it to be this week, but it's so emotional. And so I gave myself a whole day and I bawled all day, right? Because I knew I needed to get it out, and I thought I had it handled. And then we went to go take his toys to my brother's house for their puppy, because I know she likes Leo's toys, and that made me emotional. And then I had a bunch of stuff that I had to return at Walmart. I totally lost. I'm at Walmart at customer service trying to return this stuff that hasn't been opened. And they're like, well, do you have your receipt? And I'm like, no, but I didn't expect to have to return it. And I mean, but you've got to do what you got to do, right? And I'm like, I just apologize that I'm sorry. I just can't help it. And they're like, oh, honey, it's okay. That was another thing for me. People inherently want to help each other, right? So reach out if you need somebody to, you know, talk to, or reach out if you need to just process it, or reach out if you're having emotions that you don't understand. Like, emotions are very important. It's just, how do you deal with them and how do you process them is the main thing. And just know that it's okay to feel how you're feeling. Like, give yourself the permission, allow yourself to feel whatever it is, and allow yourself to then process and figure it out however you need to do that, you know, whatever works for you, because what works for me may not work for you. So figure out what works for you, work through it, process through it, and know that it's okay. And whatever the feelings are, it's okay to do that. There is more good. Yeah, there's more good than bad people out there. This whole thing is such a fluke, right? But you know, really, it's just a matter of how the media is covering it, because it's not like this has never happened before, which is unfortunate, right? But they're making it into this huge story. And what do? They have to feed into emotions to be able to want people to be so sucked into the TV, right? Because they give you all this stuff and you're like, oh my God, I can't turn it off because I need to know what's happening. Even though, you know, really, we probably won't ever really know the truth, because it's not going to be newsworthy, right? It's not going to be what they can promote and get ratings from, which is really sad. And that's another reason sometimes I don't watch the news. But again, I'm at a place now where I know I can shield myself from the energy, and I'm just able to now see the news and be able to watch it and say, okay, well, what's going on in the world, and what's, you know, what can I do? The main thing I always turn to is prayer. But that being said, whatever happened, if you were there or if you weren't, if you're feeling the effects of this, if you have your own emotional stuff going on. I had a friend of mine whose baby just had to have surgery, right? So that was going on in the midst of all of this other stuff. Everybody has something going on right now. So a lot of times what happens is these big things trigger the emotions that you've been trying to hold off from your regular life, right? Because you're like, oh no, it's okay. I can do it. I can deal with this. I can just suck it up and push it down and it'll be okay. But then something like this happens and it just kind of cracks everything open and you're like, emotions just flood out everywhere. So anyway, I just wanted to come in and say, that whatever your emotions are, know that you have, like, allow yourself to feel them, allow yourself to work through them and process them. Don't get stuck there. If you feel like you're stuck, reach out. And, just all of these things are normal, guilt, fear, sadness, feeling overwhelmed, any of that kind of stuff is a normal, absolutely normal reaction. So if you're feeling that, then that's great. If you're on the empathic side, I want you to, do all the things that we talk about when I'm talking about the empaths. Take a salt bath. In the salt bath, really put some essential oil in it and really intend that it's going to clear whatever negative energy is there. Do, essential oil sprays or spritzers. Do sage, clear yourself, clear your house, whatever feels good. And then energetically bring in divine light and just radiate that from your heart. And if you need to, put yourself in a bubble so that you can be in a space that feels good and feels safe. And know that, there's good and bad out there. The good definitely outweighs the bad. So let's do as much as we can to focus on the good, heal, and know that maybe these kind of things bring awareness. As messed up as that sounds, it's like the whole darkest before the dawn thing. Like, this darkness may be like, you know what? There really is more goodness in the world than we think. So maybe this is a way to say, what do you need to do next? Like, how can you show up bigger? How can you be more? How can you bring more light? How can you bring more love? Like, how can you do little things like, show your neighbor some kindness or smile at somebody in the grocery store. Like, all of those little things make a difference. So anyway, that's kind of what I wanted to go over about the emotions and learning to kind of literally shake it off, because energetically you do need to clear that. So if you have any questions about clearing it, let me know. In the Embodied Grace community group, we've been talking about it a little bit there too. You guys are always welcome to answer or ask questions there, and I'll do my best to answer them as quickly as I can. And other than that, we'll see you guys later. I'm off to a homecoming football game so I can watch my daughter dance tonight. So I'm going to go do that. Love you too. Talk to you later. We'll see you guys later. Let me know if you have questions. Bye.